Hey there, Ryan Ledden here, president of Black Oak Asset Management here in the Metro Atlanta area. Have a podcast called Perfect Game Retirement, and we have a mailbag of people that send in questions and had an interesting questions. I have a lot of good ones, but there was one specifically that I wanted to touch on. If you can see kind of what the title of this quick video is on is, do I have to take my RMDs? Well, first off, what are RMDs? Required minimum distributions. These are the withdrawals and distributions that you have to take out of qualified accounts that you have never paid tax on before. So the question states as this. Let me read it out. And David sent this in, said, I just turned 72 and I'm about to retire. I recently took a look at how much I'll have to start withdrawing from my IRAs and 401k. Between Social Security and the money they're forcing me to take out, I'll have a higher income in retirement than I have right now while I'm working. Can they really make me withdraw that much? So this is not an uncommon thing, David, where sometimes people are actually jump to a higher tax bracket in retirement with such low income tax rates. Sometimes this does happen. Now, the younger you are, you can maybe plan ahead for this where tax rates could be higher, who knows, but potentially be in a higher tax bracket when you have to start taking this money out. So required minimum distributions, there's a few things to talk about and to cover. There's a whole rabbit hole of information that we could get into, but I want to stay somewhat high level. So the answer to your question, David, is yes. There is a table. Basically, it's a calculation from the Uniform Lifetime Table that says you have to take out this amount based off your account balance from the previous year, the end of the previous year. So the rules are, and the Secure Act 2.0 have changed these a little bit, but as of right now, 73 years old, you have to start taking required minimum distributions. Now, again, over time, it will move to 74 and 75, depending on your dates of birth. That's a whole nother video altogether, but we're mainly talking about, are we forced to take required minimum distributions, even though you may not need that money? And again, the answer is yes. You have to start taking that money out by April 1st of the year following the age of 73. And again, it's based off the previous year's end account balance. And it is a calculation. Now, most of your custodians out there, custodians are the where your accounts are held, whether that's a Vanguard or Fidelity or Schwab or whoever out there. They hold those accounts for you, and required minimum distributions have to come out from there. There's a few caveats to this. If you are still working and you contribute to a 401k, you don't have to take required minimum distributions. Now, again, there's a little asterisk there. If you are an owner of 5% or greater of a corporation, have equity of 5% or more, you do have to take required minimum distributions, even if you are working. But if you're still working, and let's say you're 74, 75 years old, and you're still working, put money into a 401k, you don't have to take required minimum distributions out of that particular account. Now, if you have rollover or traditional IRAs that have never been taxed yet, yes, you do have to take that. So something to think about and check with your 401k provider, but you may be able to roll in that IRA into your 401k and avoid required minimum distributions. But whenever you do officially retire, whether it's in a 401k or a rollover IRA, you do have to take required minimum distributions. And again, based off of the Uniform Lifetime Table as a calculation, and most of your custodians are going to do this calculation for you. But again, based off the previous year's account balance. So if the stock market is doing well at the end of the year, then your your required minimum distribution calculation is going to be a little bit higher. It's still the same Uniform Lifetime Table number. Each year you get older, it gets a little bit higher. So if account balances go down, then you may have to take out less from the previous year. If account balances go up, then you may have to take more. So again, if you're still working, David, you don't have to. But according to your question in the mailbag, you are going to retire. And yes, you do have to take those required minimum distributions. Now, there are some ways not to avoid RMDs. You got to take RMDs because there's a 25% penalty on the required minimum distribution amount if you don't take your RMD. If you just say, nope, not going to take mine, well, they're going to penalize you. So let's don't do that. You could start thinking about doing Roth conversions. And the reason why you do Roth conversions, do those satisfy your RMDs? No, they do not. But you can start taking money from a traditional IRA and putting it into a Roth IRA. That's called a conversion. You do have to pay the tax on that dollar amount. federal, and if you live in a state that has state income tax, then you have to pay federal and state. The benefit of that is once it's in the Roth, it grows tax-free forever as long as you meet the 5-year rule and leave it in there, but you don't have to take required minimum distributions in there. Okay, you're good. Now, anything left in that pre-tax account, the 401k that hasn't been taxed yet, or the rollover IRA, you do have to take required minimum distributions. So over time, if you start moving that money from a pre-tax account to a post-tax account like a Roth IRA, then again, once it's in the Roth IRA, you don't have to take RMDs anymore. So that's one way to do it. Obviously, once the IRS just wants their tax money, they don't care what you do with that money after you take it out. Now, you can't put the money back into a traditional IRA, kind of defeats the purpose, or a Roth IRA if you're not working anymore. Now, if you have some earned income, you could potentially do a Roth IRA. But if you're completely retired, have no earned income, once you take that money out, if you want to reinvest it in a brokerage account or a joint investment account, you can do that. You can certainly do that because you don't need to have quote unquote earned income to be able to do that. So if you do have money left over, it can be reinvested in an account like that, or stick it in savings where you can earn 4 to 5% right now with interest rates being so high. But there's also another option to do depending on if you're a charitable giver. You can do it's called a qualified charitable distribution, or a QCD. There's a ton of acronyms in our industry, so I'm making sure I get this right. But you can do that. You can start at 70 and a half, which used to be the age for RMDs, but a qualified charitable distribution has not changed. It's 70 and a half, and you can give money to charity, pre-tax dollars to a charity. Again, it's a charitable donation to the 501c3. They get that money basically and don't have to pay tax on it. And it satisfies your RMD, your required minimum distribution. So if you're a giver and you want to give to a charity, you can satisfy your RMD by giving it to a charity if you don't need that money. Now, you can give some to charity and you can keep some for income. You can split it. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, but that is another way if you have that mindset of giving to charity and it's income you may not need, then you can certainly do that. And again, you can do it as early as 70 and a half up to about $100,000. They index that to inflation because that number can fluctuate, but you can give away up to $100,000 of pre-tax dollars to a charity. And again, it satisfies your required minimum distribution. So pretty cool advantage there to be able to look at that and do. So David, again, hopefully I answered your question. Yes, you do have to take required minimum distributions. They make you take it. It is a calculation, but you can give that money away to charity and it satisfies your required minimum distribution and you don't have to pay tax on it, or start converting that money over to a post-tax account like a Roth IRA where you no longer have to take required minimum distributions once it's in the Roth. Again, you can do a Roth conversion, but it has to be above your required. You have to take out your RMD. A conversion does not satisfy the RMD, the required minimum distribution. So do the RMD, take out what you have to take out. Then if you want to do above and beyond that, do Roth conversions where that money slides over into a Roth and you never have to pay required minimum distributions ever again. So hopefully that helps, David. Hopefully that helps you out there if you have any questions about that. But you do have to take your RMDs. It's just a thing that we got to do. So hopefully that was helpful, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.